So we're always teaching them structure. We communicate structure by giving them
the rules and the
discipline.
Right.
Well, it goes even break it down. The rules is the medium through which we communicate the structure. But all children test rules. Why? Because they don't trust us. Because we say 7 o'clock is bedtime, and it is. And then one night you happen to be talking to your Rebbe, or you're talking to your wife about something else, and you forget the whole thing. And 10 past 7, you come running in, oh, bedtime, it's 10 past 7. And the kids say, well, 1 minute, I thought it was 7.
Right.
Like, where we, when it's convenient for you, it's 10 past 7. Got it. So now we know it's not 7.
Right.
So they start testing you on 7, and they pick that up on everything. And they recognize that we're not sitting there yekkers with a stopwatch on all our rules structure, all our structure rather.
Right.
So the rules are not clear to them.
Welcome back to another special guest episode. This episode with Rabbi Shimon Russell was, wow. I mean, words can't even describe. This was such an incredible zchus, such an incredible pleasure. It's nearly impossible to even just to find Rabbi Russell's contact information. Rabbi Russell is the go-to. He's mamish in the shivish world. He's especially, in the world of where parents are dealing with children who are, going through some challenges and troubles. He is the go-to. He's had so much experience within his own life, and he's dealt with and really helped so many people. And as a result, he has to protect his identity and how much people can get in touch with him. And it was nearly impossible. And the way that this episode came about was truly incredible. It was actually this amazing story. One night I was speaking to my boss in the OU, and he was telling me, he said, there's this one person, I don't know how you're going to get through to him. I have no idea how, but you have to somehow find a way. We have to pull our resources together to get Rabbi Shimon Russell on. His reputation precedes himself. And I started Googling him, and I was looking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out a way. The next day, I'm walking in school, and after I finished my last class, I'm talking to two of my students, just randomly. One of them asked me about the parenting podcast, and then he said, he turned to his friend next to him, and he says, you really should tell a rabbi about your grandfather. And my student turns to me and he says, oh yeah, Rabbi, my grandfather is a really, really big deal. And I said, okay, I didn't know what he was referring to. Maybe it was just a cute idea. And he says, my grandfather is Rabbi Shimon Russell. And my mouth dropped. I said, I literally just last night was scouring the web just to find some sort of way to get in touch with him. And I couldn't find any way. I asked, I said, is there any way, maybe, I know he lives in Eretz Yisrael, any way that maybe the next time he comes in that we could maybe do this episode? And we tried a couple of times. Baruch Hashem, we had this incredible opportunity, and this episode is just the tip of the iceberg. You have to check out his book. His book is an incredible resource for all parents, for all people. Really check it out, and you're going to gain so much from this episode about the 4 S's, the structure. There's so many gems in this episode. I'm so excited to share it with you. Without further ado, enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of The Jews Next Door. It is an incredible pleasure. What a zechus to be sitting with Rabbi Shimon Russell. Rabbi Russell is a psychotherapist in Yerushalayim, a popular author of this incredible new book, Raising a Loving Family. You really have to check it out. I'll be putting the link to buy this. It's a must. It's a must read for all parents, for anyone, really, for anyone. It's a must read. The link will be in the show notes. And a speaker, a sought after speaker, an authority, especially on the challenges of struggling adolescents and, quote unquote, at risk children and teens. And really, a really special thank you.
Thank you.
One of the leaders of our door to speak about raising the Jews next door. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. Especially as you're the Rebbe to my grandson.
Yeah, so. I was going to say a big shout out to your grandson,
yes,
Sammy, who really put this together. And really a major thank you to Sammy. And again, a thank you to you.
Sure.
So, I guess before we get into, the specifics, what inspired you to get into this area, of parenting and specifically dealing with struggling at-risk children and teens?
Okay, well, I was a therapist doing the work with the Frum community. I had in my own family some struggling children. And one day there was in the old days before all the magazines came out, there was the Jewish Observer in days gone by. And they had an article about challenging kids, struggling kids. and there was a box they brought out to illustrate the point. And in the box, the author had written that the overwhelming consensus of Orthodox mental health professionals was that children were going off the derech, struggling because they were coming from dysfunctional homes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I knew it wasn't true.
Right.
I certainly don't believe being a dysfunctional home is helpful.
Right.
But I certainly knew also it wasn't the cause.
Right, right.
I knew we weren't a dysfunctional home. On the contrary, we were highly functional. And really, the problem is when that rhetoric remains in the eyes of the community, it shames parents so deeply. So the reaction is to then micromanage their kids to try and prevent them from being a public display that we are clearly a dysfunctional home.
Yeah.
Then that micromanaging oiled the rails for them to go off farther and harder.
Right.
And so I knew I had to address it, and I'd never done anything publicly. And then with a dear colleague of mine, Dr. Norm Blumenthal, we wrote to the Jewish Observer together, and we challenged it. The response was incredible in our favor. Apparently there were tens of thousands of letters supporting what we had said.
Wow.
And then they published
They published something what you had said.
we had written. Then there was a watershed edition on children in crisis, totally on that subject, which we organized. And it was a game changer.
How many years ago was this?
This is probably 90-something, I forget.
Oh, wow.
98 maybe.
Wow, okay.
And it put the narrative on the table. It allowed us to talk about it instead of hiding from it. And I think that's really what happened.
Yeah.
That started for me. It drew me into it because we were at the beginning of trying to make sense, get rid of the Beichsfaras, the people just thinking they knew what it was about.
Yeah, it was a taboo.
None of us knew what it was about, really. Right. So we organized some conferences through Nefesh, the International Network of Orthodox Mental Health Professionals, and we began trying to professionalize the whole sugya. From that, I became the clinical director of our place. It's probably the biggest drop-in center of the kids in Brooklyn.
Right.
I was there 10 years, and we trained everybody and trying to work out together collaboratively, like what was actually happening and could we help these kids, and if so, how?
Right.
So we really began studying the sugya then. Later on, I also opened a school in Yerushalayim for girls who were off the derech, who were struggling, post-high school.
Those were primarily like Olim?
No, not at all. No, exactly the opposite. They were American and English-speaking young ladies. It was a boutique school. We ran it, Tikva it was called. We ran it for about 10 years. We stopped because we ran out of money.
Oh, really?
That was it. It just cost a lot of money to do it, a boutique school like that. But it was astonishing how we impact. We weren't always sure we did, but it was clear we were impacting these kids' lives.
Wow.
And again, we were constantly trying to study what we were doing. We don't have money for real hard research.
Yeah.
But I wasn't satisfied with just guessing.
Yeah.
So we did statistics at our place. We kept very detailed research statistics to try and understand what is actually happening. And over the years, together, colleagues and myself began to understand better what was actually happening. So I kind of got drawn into it over the years. And then Kesher Nafshi appeared out of nowhere about 5 years ago.
Right.
And I think it's taken the world by storm, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's
incredible work. Incredible.
Yes, somehow between Kesher Nafshi and the appropriate usefulness of technology, I probably wouldn't be known if not for technology.
Right.
But the drushes are online and podcasts are happening.
Yeah.
And people are watching and they're desperate for information. And it's incredibly astonishing to me that you could do a podcast and 100,000 people are going to watch.
Yeah.
That's in the history of the world never happened.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Never. It means we have achrayas. Those of us that, have been doing this for many, many years, and there are a number of us doing it, we have an achrayas. We've got to get out there and try and help this next generation.
Yeah, it's totally true. So hopefully we'll get to that answer of what you found after all those years. Hopefully we'll get there over the course of this conversation.
Still working on it, but whatever we've got at the moment, I'll be happy to share.
Sounds good. Well, so what would you say are the primary factors that influence a child to,
I guess, first and foremost, before we get into, I guess, the going off the derech in a way, but just affect a child's core sense of self?
So there's two different questions. The core sense of self of a child, I make a big fuss about it in the book. I read something in Dan Siegel's work some years ago. It was almost like an aside, but when I read it, like bells of recognition went off in my brain.
Really?
And I'd always tried to work on attachment and understanding attachment in a deeper way, and how that works, and how that connects our children to themselves, to us and them to themselves, and then to Rabbi Shalom. How does that work?
Yeah.
And when I read the 4 S's of attachment in Dan Siegel's work, again, he didn't make as a big fuss about it as I did.
Right.
But I took it. I gave him credit for it, of course. But I took it and began using it in my office to experiment with both prevention and recovery, and discovered that the 4 S's were so tangible. They conveyed and communicated so well a structure for how to create attachment and how to both repair attachment afterwards. It was so incredible, the reaction of my clients.
Wow.
I felt it was the first time they felt they could have clarity without judgment and criticism. You know, none of us have perfect homes.
Right.
Everyone thinks, under the chuppah, we're going to do it different. And then, of course, they get very humbled as life goes by.
Right.
But that's the reality.
Yeah.
But the 4 S's, the 4 S's of attachment.
I was gonna say, for anyone who doesn't
if
know,
anyone doesn't know,
right.
read the book or read Dan. But it's safe, secure, seen, and soothed. Safe, secure, seen, and soothed. These 4 dimensions of how we can think about how we're bringing up our children and how we're interacting with our children, and which of these dimensions needs more strengthening and which is poorer. What are they? And I make a big fuss in the book about it because I see it as so powerful and simple.
Right.
And it's just easy to remember. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
And it appears to be shavel chol nefesh. It's amazing how people recognize what was missing in myself. So if I know it was missing for me, then I have what we would consider attachment wounds.
Right.
It's not my fault. I'm missing it because I didn't
You're
get
saying
it.
that's the secure, meaning
Well,
feeling.
it could
feeling
be safe or secure. Any of them,
right.
safety, secure, any of them.
Yeah.
If they were missing, especially in the world after the Holocaust, the world after, I was born 11 years after Auschwitz.
Oh, wow.
So we were the children born after the war.
Right. Wow.
In that world, there was no room for all this sensitive stuff.
Right.
There was a survival, shut up and survive.
Yeah.
There was no room for it all. It was weird even to even think in these terms, but it wasn't normal. It was a post-Holocaust reaction. And it's really not just the Holocaust, but it's life, when life is hard. So there's not so much sensitivity towards these nuances. There's merely an attitude of just basically toughen up and deal with it.
Right.
Well, that was definitely that world that we grew up in after the war. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
I would say, I know this sounds odd, but unfortunately, we're a very affluent society today.
Yeah.
And I mean
why
it when
why
I
do you say
unfortunately.
Why?
Well, because I think what's happened is there's the reaction to that toughness created indulgence. It's not surprising to me. And it may
Meaning
be
we went that way, opposite way.
Yeah,
right.
because I think it was so missing. So then it went the opposite direction. It wouldn't surprise me if the next door go back and come up with tough parenting, love and logic will come back and, we'll get like firm again. But the reality was, I think that the damage of the war, it'll take generations to wash out.
Yeah.
And clearly it's still there, the impact of it.
Sure.
Particularly in the lack of love as we would like to express it.
Right.
Love was more in terms of caring, function, like housing, shelter, clothing, food, feed them.
Right, it was just practical things.
Practical stuff,
right.
But not in terms of what the nurture in the heart and soul. And in a world where there wasn't time for that.
Yeah.
We didn't sort of care.
Right.
So I think a lot of people came through that world after the war without the tools of knowing how to bring up their children in a healthy way.
Right.
And that's fascinating that in this generation, look, we're doing a podcast on parenting. It's everywhere you go. Probably the most popular subject in any sort of the podcast world, I would think, is marriage and families, children. That's why we wrote the book, Raising a Loving Family.
Yeah.
Because that's the subject people want to hear about most.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
100%.
And I think that audiences are desperate for information. So the 4 S's, I just want to say, gave, I saw that as such a powerful conceptualization of how to build attachment. Create safety with your children in all the different facets of what safety means.
Yeah.
And safety means, on different dimensions, physical safety. We got hit a lot as kids.
Yeah.
And we got caned, and we were, it was normal in the world
whole,
we lived in.
Everyone would always say, like, taking out the bells back in the day.
Sure. I encourage most parents that if you ever start a sentence with "when I was a kid," don't finish the sentence.
Don't finish it.
Please don't finish the sentence.
Right.
Well, it's not to your children.
Yeah.
Just don't finish because it's not negaya.
Yeah.
It's not negaya. It was a different world. So we have to learn what is safety. So safety is played out in physical safety. The Svei Petch world that once existed, Svei Petch, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And nor should it. In fact, the kind of punishments we got as kids, you go to jail for that today.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a great way to have some good, clean, kosher fun with your children through the powerful effect of music, look no further because J Karaoke is here. J Karaoke gives one and all the platform to belt out their favorite tunes from a library of thousands of Jewish songs, hundreds of artists and genres that cost multiple decades of incredible Jewish music. Personally, I know that I love singing. I love it. I love karaoke, but I was really never able to get into it because it wasn't the Jewish songs. And that's where J Karaoke comes in with their huge selection from the latest hits to the classics. They even have nursery rhymes for your little ones. And with features like key changes to help you sing, to make you more comfortable as you're singing, and speeding it up or slowing down the song, they have really thought of everything. To enjoy Jewish karaoke your way, all you need to do is head to jkaraoke.com. Choose a subscription that fits for you. And to make it even more fun, you could purchase their state-of-art karaoke kit, which gives you the feeling as if you are today's top singer. You can insert whoever you feel it is. Connect your kit to any device, like it could be a laptop, computer, a tablet, whatever it is, and you plug in your speaker, plug in your J Karaoke microphone, and you sing away. It's as easy as that. That's all it is, and it's really fun. I checked out their website. It really looks amazing. They have an incredible amount of song selection. Anything you want. They got Thank You Hashem. They got Mordechai Shapiro. They really got it all. You can subscribe monthly for just $4.99 a month, yearly for $49.99, and we have a special deal here for you. For any of our listeners, if you use the code JewsNextDoor, DOR, you get an additional 10% off. And if you don't want your children to be using a device with internet, J Karaoke's got you covered. You can download the app onto your desktop. Once you have it up, turn off the internet, let them sing all day long without the internet. Check out J Karaoke today and let the fun begin.
So the world changed. It's not nothing to do with Judaism, nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
The entire world of children changed, and the relationship to children changed. Probably shifted the end of the Vietnam War when children in this country stood up the federal government.
Right.
And they had to negotiate with teenagers. I mean, whoever thought of that?
Yeah.
And somehow they brought the end of the war. And what happened was an equalization of status between children and adults that kind of took the lid off society that once existed,
Right.
that where deference to elders was a fact. It was a natural metzias in the entire world since Adam Rishon and on, up until the 50s and 60s. By the end of the 60s, that lid started coming off. The revolution, the whole revolution in rock and roll.
It's funny, I thought it was like a recent thing, but
No. It started about the 60s.
Interesting.
And it played out into the 80s. And then we started exposing in the 80s and 90s the instance of sexual abuse in our communities as well.
Yeah.
And that took the lid further off. And what happened is, children internally, their experience is not one where they feel, most children, obviously there are many large groups of children who do feel this still, but I would think the majority of children don't have a natural experience, as we once had, of absolute deference to elders.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, no, it
I used to
doesn't.
go and give workshops in schools 25 years ago. I'd come to the school and someone would ask me, a child would ask me, can I help you? And they'd open the door.
Right.
Today I wait. First of all, they're locked because of security.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
you have to wait. You have to buzz in.
Yeah.
When the door opens, I open the door and 5 kids pile in under my arm, kind of knock me out the way.
Yeah.
And I'm left there standing, still not knowing where to go.
Yeah.
That is rare that a kid will come over to me and say, can I help you?
Yeah. It's
They
true.
just ignore
I
you.
see it all the time in school.
The world
All
changing.
the
Oh, you're a
time.
Rebbe,
Yeah.
exactly. And this is not the fault of any child or any parent. This is a world shift. This is a shift in the entire world. As I say, began probably at the end of the Vietnam War, Kent State Massacre. They came out to fight. The National Guard came and shot kids.
Yeah.
So that process has been unfolding in a myriad of different ways. Technology has really done us in because the old days, like we had a stereo system. It was my father's. We dare not touch it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't touch it. You had to ask for shus.
Yeah.
Today, every kid has an MP3 or an
Not only
MP3
everything,
player.
they can access anything and everything.
They walk around with their
Their
two things.
AirPods.
You can't hear them. They can't hear you. They're in their own
They're
world.
in their own world, yeah.
There was nothing, until I think the Sonny Walkman was the first one that brought them in that
I'll never
world.
forget when I got that Sony
That
Walkman.
Sonny Walkman, right? It was like, but what we didn't realize is what it was going to do to the culture of the child.
Yeah. Why?
And
What do you think
it
it's
did
doing?
is it made children independent too early. They didn't need us anymore.
Right.
They didn't need adults.
Right.
And in fact, in the world, just as there's a shift in the entire world with AI, we see what's going to happen with more people being redundant, not necessary,
Totally.
having to think twice about what job, what career, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Robots are taking over. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
dramatic, but
No,
this
it's
is
true.
the way the
Yeah.
world is going. Well, that's happened to children. So children, for example, one of the things drives me completely crazy is when parents run around like flailing their arms when the clock changes and they don't know how to change the clock on the microwave. You see, and the worst part is they display that apparent ignorance in front of their children.
In front of children, their children see, oh,
And
look,
their
see, I'm
children
better.
can do
I
it
can do that.
blindfold.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
children, they close their eyes and they can change the clock.
Totally.
And parents will often say to their kids, you do it, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely appalling.
Yeah.
Because really what you're doing is programming your child to think of you as an antique. As an antique.
Wow.
And that's a terrible, terrible tragedy. So I see this, what's happened with technology has privatized the lives and made the lives of children more independent of their parents, where they don't need them so much. So where on earth is that respect going to come from?
Right.
Plus the fact that most parents aren't so comfortable. I personally kept all the manuals in my bathroom of all technology, computers, you name it, and I studied them. I knew them. I didn't want my kids to think they knew more than me, and overall they don't.
Right.
Occasionally there is something new which they'll tell me about, but I'm eager to learn it, and I learn it and understand it, and I'm with them on it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I might not ask them to do the microwave,
Right.
but it's no different to asking them to empty the garbage.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly capable of doing this, but I'll never confess I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I'll tell them I may not have
fascinating.
learned it yet.
Right.
Why would we program our kids to think of us as antiques?
Yeah.
So safety, let's go back to safety. Safety is physical, emotional safety, psychological safety, sexual safety, body safety, and spiritual safety.
Right.
That we have to create an environment where our kids truly feel safe with us. I mean, I can go and speak hours on these.
We can speak for.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
But these are the dimensions: safety, security. That my kids need to know that they're secure with the love their parents have for each other and the respect their parents have for each other, and they're secure with knowledge of what a Shabbos table and a Yontif is going to look like.
Right.
Not that we're running around panicking before Pesach or panicking.
Meaning they have a routine that they
There's
know
a
they can
routine.
expect.
It's
Right.
expected. They know there's clothes in season. If you live in a place where you need winter clothes and summer, they know it's going to happen in camp. The expectations of life, even if we as parents haven't always got the resources or haven't worked it out yet, but don't panic and say that to your kids. Let the kids know, don't worry, Schaefer, we're going to work it out.
We have this.
We're
right.
on this. We're on there. I'm your parent. Don't worry. Let's process this together.
Yeah.
But don't give them the sense that I don't know how to cope with this, which is we're finding more and more parents actually don't know how to cope with this and aren't sure what they're going to do with it. So security is extremely important in many, many different aspects of a child's life. They get in trouble in school, we're with you.
Yeah.
We're going to deal with this. We're going to work with it. Don't worry. No, we came home from school. If we got hit by a Rebbe,
Yeah.
We didn't tell my father because he'd hit
'Cause
you for
he'd
being
get more
hit.
of it, right.
Yeah, you got hit, boom, he'd hit you for being hit.
Right, you were being disrespectful.
Exactly. Today we need our kids, to know we're with you. I'm not going to cover up for you, but I'm with you.
Right.
It's a journey we're on together. We have to provide that security for our kids
Yeah.
and not give them the sense we're just too fatigued. We're just fatigued. We don't know how to do this.
Right.
Scene is huge, and maybe we'll come to that later, but I find it's incredibly lacking, the focus on recognizing the uniqueness of children. What we tend to do is we have a bunch of kids. So the rhetoric, the internal actually, and the external rhetoric is, let's get the kids in the car, let's get the kids to bed, let's get the kids in the bath, let's get the kids for stuff. It's like we got this thing called kids.
Right.
Now, what you discover when your kids, Baruch Hashem, our youngest was married recently.
Right. Milestone.
And so we're, at a stage where, in that stage, we're watching them with their own families and marriages and lives. And guess what? They're all different.
Yeah.
They're not that group of like this chaimer of kids,
Right,
this glob.
the kids are doing
kids.
this, right?
It's not the kids, and you can fool yourself very easily into believing it's the kids. And it's not. They're
It's
unique.
Chanukah and Al Pi Darko. Each one is, has their
The
own.
problem with that is it's true, but no one takes it seriously. No one tells us how to do it.
Right.
Like, what does it even mean? How on earth do you do chanukah? The only way you can do chanukah and Al Pi Darko, the only true way, is learning to extract from your child, who are you? There's a piece I talk about frequently about the difference. You're a Rebbe. So I talk the difference between a mechanech and a melamed. I don't know if you've heard me speak
I've never
about
heard
it.
it. No.
Oh,
Haven't had this chus yet.
so there's a distinction between a mechanech and a melamed. A melamed, the word itself in Hebrew is melamed. It's about installation.
Right.
You're installing yediyah. Kid comes in, doesn't know Kometz Aleph is He never heard of that, or
Right.
An in Eretz Yisrael. He doesn't know what it means. So you install yediyah cleverly with skills and process and routine and road, until you install yediyah in his head.
Right.
That's a melamed.
Right.
A mechanech is about extraction, not installation. It's about pulling out of a child what is great about him.
Yeah.
Who are you? What did Hashem give you? What are your koiches? And how will we help you work out to be inspired by yourself and find a way to take that inspiration of who you are and use it for the world, for Klal Yisrael and for the world, for the betterment of other people?
Right.
How will you work out how to do that? We're going to pull it out of you and then show it to you so you'll know who you are.
Right.
That's seen. And that's incredibly lacking.
Seeing what.
Yes, I can see. And if you watch your children carefully,
Right.
what happens is it emerges. Their reaction to you teaches you who they are.
So how do parents do that? That sounds like, I mean, like you were saying, parents don't know how to do that. They don't know, meaning.
Well, first of all, you have to know that's what you're doing.
Right.
Most people haven't got a
They
clue.
don't even realize that that's what
when
they're
I
trying to
see
do.
my child react to me, it's like the Torah, the Chazal say that he can be a bloodthirsty person, can be a murderer,
Right, or
he can be a shochet, or he
right.
can be a butcher, and he can find a good way. So we have to recognize the midas and keiches of who our children are, but then find a way to help them see, how can you be you? Because if I'm going to force my child to be me, that's where most parents go wrong.
Right.
Is we have a picture,
Yes,
unfortunately,
we want our child to be exactly
tragically,
like this.
tragically, and it's absurd.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to tell you, it's completely absurd. The idea that if you're going to have a bunch, let's say you have 4 or 5 kids, the idea they're all going to be in your image,
Yeah,
zero chance of
doesn't
it
even make any
happening.
sense. There's no
it
reason.
makes
Yeah.
But yet you go out thinking, I'm going to impart my ideas and my... That's not chinuch. Chinuch, a mechanech, it's like, what is a Chanukah Sabayis? You buy a new house, or you built a new house, and you make a Chanukah Sabayis. Why? To show off your house? Absolutely not. A Chanukah Sabayis, like a Chanukah Mizbeach. Chanukah Sabayis is a dedication of your house, where you declare amongst your friends and family, what is the potential that lies in this home,
right.
to bring up a family, to make a Shabbos and Yom Tov, to be duach nosas ochim. There's a potential that liegt in this shtub, in this home. There's great potential here, and we thank Rabbeinu Shalom for giving us the potential. That's Chanukah Sabayis.
Right.
So that's the word chinuch is that word. It's about the potential,
Bringing out the potential.
that lies inside a child. Now, sometimes a mechanech and melamed is the same person.
Right.
Sometimes they do both, and they're amazing when they do. Sometimes they're two different jobs.
Yeah.
There are people who recognize I'm a melamed, I'm not here to be mechanech.
Right.
It's not my job. Parents always doing both. And the primary thing is this: when there's a conflict between the job of being melamed and the job of being a mechanech, occasionally there's a conflict. We always must err on the side of being mechanech.
Right.
Drop the melamed.
Yeah.
Do that later. Do that later. Like as a Rebbe, if a kid doesn't want to learn right now, you're going to fight him, you're going to lose him.
Yeah.
But if you connect with him and tell him, listen, right now you're having a hard time, don't worry about it. We'll learn tomorrow.
Yeah.
You'll be a mechanech, and then talk to him about, what was that about?
Right.
I don't mind. I'm not. It's
Right,
fine.
not upset. Just
Not
what,
upset.
how can I help you? Like, what's
how
going
can I
on?
help you?
Right.
How can I understand it? That's being a mechanech. But if you say no, you got to learn. A kid has to learn.
Right.
Will you put your finger on the right, and you start with that rubbish.
Yeah.
Well, you lost the kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this one, see, in previous generations, it worked. It does. Well, I don't know.
It won't work now.
It zicha worked.
Yeah,
I don't know if it worked or didn't work. I don't know. But I can tell you, it sure doesn't work today.
Yeah.
So that we always have to lean towards being mechanech. That's seen. We have to see who they are. You know, I used to whisper to my kids Friday night after I give them a bracha. I tried to whisper something I'd seen unique and special they did that
I do
week.
that every Friday night.
Just something you noticed.
Yeah.
That made they feel seen. They feel noticed who they
So you're
are.
saying that's the concept of extracting Chanuch L'Nar B'Darko is extracting, showing them what you've noticed about them.
What I've
to help.
noticed and what I see, and then as they grow, we see more and more, we reflect it back, and then we help them notice, how can you use that to better your life?
Right. And it's
That's your
specifically more
direction.
general of their midos as opposed to
that's
like a
where it
specific
starts.
thing. But it's
Sure. And then if you do that properly, then later on, it gets very specific and very honed into a career choice and a life choice, and they see who they can be, what their potential is.
Right.
But we have to see them. And the last one is soothed. That, you know, we have a tendency that when our kids, you know, then they get hurt. So how many times did I tell you not to play with that kid?
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I told you not to ride the bike without the training wheels. Like, what were you expecting?
Right,
You know,
right.
we start with the musa. It's a mistake. In this generation, for sure, it's a terrible mistake.
Yeah, they just
You
need to
have
feel
room for
loved
that.
right at that time.
Absolutely. Sit them on your lap, hold them, and soothe them. You know, a day or two later, you feel it's necessary to give them some instruction. Do it 2 days later. But right now, soothe your child. Let them know I care for you. I'm with you. 9 times out of 10, if you do it properly, they'll tell to you the musa that you were about to tell them.
Right.
I know I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and they start crying. You understand? So, you know, if we want our children to have a sense of self, in this world they're growing up in today, I found the safe, secure, seen, and soothed. The 4 S's creates attachment.
Yeah.
And attachment, can I continue a moment?
Please,
Is that okay?
please.
So attachment is crucial, that the kids feel attached to us as people, especially if we have any hope of them having attachment towards our faith, towards Yadus.
Right.
And it's critical that they have that bond with us as seeing us as Ava Rachamon, if we have any hope of them transferring that to Rabbeinu Shalom when they get older.
Right. That's why within our parenting hierarchy that we created for this podcast, the first topic is just building a relationship with our children. And then in about 8 months from now, we're going to go and talk about, you know, Hashem, because we can't even, that's like, you can't even get there. You have to have the basics. That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to first have, you know, certain things in that pyramid in order to be able to get to the, you know, the actual.
And attachment is the foundation.
Right.
And what's beautiful about attachment, the first of all, it helps people understand what they missed. People can see it. Parents, as they go through it, you know, we describe it very carefully in the book. They can see, you know, they say it to me, like as I describe it, First of all, they recognize what they didn't get from their own parents.
Right.
Well, then I make the observation, if you didn't get it, chances are you're not doing it.
Right.
Not because you're bad or stupid.
You just don't even know.
You just don't even know.
Right.
So here's a model for you to work on, and then we explore what it means. And they love the model. So number one, it's a profound teaching tool for helping parents very quickly see what are the dimensions I need to do with my kids.
Yeah.
Number two, is amazingly helpful repairing damaged attachments.
Right.
Which is what I use it for almost every day in my office.
Sure.
Helping a parent focus on which one do you think your kid is missing the most, and they tell me a story. And so we'll process which of the 4 S's do you think was missing in that story.
So the 4 S's really became your whole.
Well, I just saw it
as
as so profound.
Right. Wow.
And once we got that, then I can go and do everything else. But it channels and focuses a way of looking at what I'm doing in a way that's not judgmental.
Right.
It's not critical. It doesn't make a person feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
And yet it's a very powerful tool. So they'll process that story through this picture, the 4 S's. Yeah, I think they didn't feel safe. I think that's so good. How would you create safety? How would you do
first
that?
and foremost, for a parent, they first really need to think reflectively, what am I doing? Meaning with children in crisis, they have to first think like within these 4 S's, what am I doing that's not meeting these 4 S's?
Correct. Absolutely. So the model itself helps both, in the building blocks of good attachment to begin with.
Yeah.
And then good attachment, to me, it seems to me that what we're looking at is good attachment creates resilience. See, trauma happens outside the home, for example. Kids with serious learning difficulties are going to have a traumatic experience in the school systems that we have, as much as we're trying very hard and schools are trying.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, we are a primary academic system.
Yeah, it's true.
And we're pushing for higher and higher academic levels.
It's constant. It's
constantly
intense.
all
It's
the
way
time,
too intense.
Whereas it doesn't seem to fit. It's not attuned, in my humble opinion, to the Messias on the ground. All the Rebbes know it.
Yeah.
They write me emails after I speak, and they tell me about it. They please do more of this because, you're right. But then the administration, there's always a struggle and a complaint. We got to get into the highest scores and we got to get acceptance here.
Parents are paying the tuition.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a complicated. I don't claim to have the answers to all of that.
Yeah.
And everyone has a point of view.
Yeah.
Which I don't disagree with any of it. But I know the kids are getting hurt by this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a good attachment does is it provides the basis and foundation for resilience. And this is this is as profound as it gets.
Yeah.
Because what we understand, young parents bringing up little kids, we're all starry-eyed and we think we're going to do it great. We all felt that way too. You see, what none of us knew is you can't know what's going to happen. Actually, it's a Rashi in Nida. The Gemara says in Nida, Tesaino Abes, there's a malach in charge of Herayon, pregnancy, Lailishmai. Noitel tipa mamidil makim vaima tipa zumatia. What's going to be with this tipa? Hacham or tipish, smart or stupid.
Right.
Gibber chalash, strong or weak. Usher or ani, wealthy or poor. Bilu sadik v'rosha loitema ki akol b'dei shemayim chutz miyashmayim. So what are these 3 dimensions? I believe these are 3 dimensions we live in. Usher ani is the environmental world around us. Hacham or Tipish is the intellectual world, and Gibber Chalish is the physical world. So these are the 3 dimensions. I think they represent the dimensions we live in. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And so everything, Rashi is amazing Rashi. For me, in my career, my life, with my own children, family, career, I've hung on to this Rashi all the way through my career. Because Rashi says, Akol b'dei shemaim chutz miyashmaim. Everything is b'dei shemaim, chutz miyashmaim. That you have to work for, right?
Yeah.
So what is Hakol? What is everything?
All those 3.
What does it mean? So Rashi tells us. He says, listen to this, unbelievable, blows your mind. Zog Rashi, Kol midoisov v'karoisov shel adam boin lo b'gzeirus melech. All a person's midas, character, personality, who they are. V'karoisov, and the events that happened to them, that kid next door who hurt them, the bully, the one who was, God forbid, molested them.
Right.
This kid with his midos of that, and including his personality and his intellectual capacity and his learning disabilities and everything else, all that's min hashamayim.
Wow.
Hakol kol midos v'karois boina b'gzeirus melech.
Wow.
I have the Makairis in this, and Midrashim and the Zohar Kodesh.
Right.
It's all min hashamayim. Once you understand that, okay, because everyone has a tikkun, they got to do their tikkun, whatever that is to fulfill in this world. And Hashem puts them through these things. We don't realize that.
Yeah.
So
I feel
they're
like for a
go.
parent, that's very powerful because then it's like, then in a way, it's like, it's hard for a parent then to say, well, what do I do? Because it's all made.
So that's what we do.
Right.
This is exactly it. What we do as parents is provide resilience for our children.
To be able to handle those
situations. So that when those
situations.
things happen, they can optimize the experience in the best possible way to find their fulfillment.
Right.
That's resilience. Resilience is the courage to bounce back.
Yeah.
Resilience doesn't stop you getting molested, doesn't stop you having a learning disability.
Right, right.
But resilience provides the vehicle through which you will bounce back and maybe even become a famous person because of it.
Right.
And do something amazing for Equalization. How many leaders in the world at large went through terrible, terrible sorrows?
Yeah.
And they took and harnessed the sorrows to become leaders and mechadshim in the entire world.
Yeah.
How many people, I mean, we see this all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So as parents, what we're focusing on is providing good attachment.
Why does attachment lead to the resilience?
Resilience, because when you have good attachment, take safe and secure, for example. When your kids feel safe and secure with you, they will turn to you for help. The chances of kids privatizing and making a secret of what happened to them when they feel completely safe and secure.
Even in nowadays generation with...
Yes. When you do this, the chances are something's going to happen and they get threatened, you know, whether it's in case of abuse, for example.
Right.
And someone says, you tell someone I'm going to kill you.
Right.
Those kids go tell their parents.
Sure, sure.
Why? Because we've been working for years and years
Even
and years
in them.
ingraining resilience in them.
Right,
so who are they going to believe, us or them?
Yeah.
So what happens is the model of resilience, the model of attachment provides for resilience. It seems to give the strength. I know who I am and I feel cared for and I will go to my parents, or I just feel secure about who I am as a person.
Right.
Those children seem not to dip so bad at all and then bounce back and I can't say this, I don't have the research, but I can tell you anecdotally, I have a feeling that those people will be harnessing the impact of the event on their life for the betterment of themselves and Klal Yisrael. They're going to use that koich because we gave it to them. So the hierarchy would be working on attachment, but profoundly for those early years.
And what if, you know, when a parent, let's say, realizes that the attachment is not there, where the relationship is not so strong?
Go get therapy, because you got to work out why can't you do it. 9 times out of 10, it's because you didn't get it. You just didn't get it yourself.
Right.
It's not just a matter of I don't get it. They get it.
Right.
But they didn't get it.
They didn't, right.
They didn't get it as a child. They didn't have it.
Right.
And so, you know, it's look at the other way. Can I expand on this?
Please.
Another way to look at it is this: 0 to 2, what we're meant to be doing with our children is unconditional love. That means whatever they do, we laugh, we smile, we think it's cute.
Sure.
You know, they wreck the house, they wreck our lives, they keep us up. We're meant to convey to them, there's nothing you can do that's wrong. You're perfect. You're absolutely perfect. And if we can find the strength for that. So if they're colicky, we're not like, you know, we're conveying to them, they're picking up from us love, absolute love. If they go and draw on the freshly painted wall, we take out the camera and take pictures.
Right.
And we laugh. Because that's going to be at the next Shavuot. You know, we'll show that one day. We'll show those pictures. What we don't do is like scream and yell, who left the red pen? You know, frighten the kids. 0 to 2, we're meant to do that. 2 to about, 12, 13, 14, we're meant to be setting limits. Limit setting is crucial. It's where most parents fall apart because they don't know how to set. They don't actually have a hashkafa about limits.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, see, I actually changed something. I wrote in the book, in the future editions, I'm going to change it.
Really?
It's a subtlety.
Yeah.
It's a subtlety. But I was having a conversation with one of my kids, married kids, and we were debating it, and I saw something I hadn't seen before, and I made a change. I used to talk about all children to thrive, do well, need rules, structure, and discipline in their lives so that they can learn how to contain themselves and be part of a society. When they're born, they're completely self-centered, as they should be. A baby is self-centered.
Sure.
Well, somehow we've got to teach them how to restrain themselves, not to be self-centered. So we need rules, structure, and discipline, and we do that in order to teach them how to be structured people so they can be part of a society.
I want to that like maturity is when you help a child to be able to look towards others and look towards others' needs.
It's always other-centered, not self-centered. So I used to talk this way all the time, and then it dawned on me that it wasn't clear, it wasn't crisp, and I've changed it. And I say it like this: limit setting is about the following. I changed the order from rules, structure, and discipline, which sounds like a concept. Rules, structure, and discipline. It's a concept. It's not. It's actually Structure, rules, and discipline.
What do you mean?
Explain the difference.
Yeah.
All children need structure as they emerge out of being completely self-centered. We need to teach them structure so they can contain themselves, so they can be part of society. So we teach
When you
them
say
about
structure,
bedtime.
you mean, okay, so like
There's
meaning
a
like there's a
bedtime.
specific routine that we have
There's
for
a
bedtime.
routine, exactly.
Okay.
Bedtime and getting up in the morning and getting dressed and how you eat and how you hold a knife and a fork. And we constantly, as young parents, teaching our children structural skills for how to conform to life.
Right.
So that you're not doing it your way. Yes, it's true you can pick up a bunch of peas with your hand,
Right.
but we're going to teach you how to do it with a spoon and eventually with a fork.
Right.
You know, and we'll teach you. I don't think they do on the back of the fork anymore, as we were taught.
Right,
You
right.
know, but we teach kids structure, and we teach them, like I said, bedtime and clothing, and put your clothes in the hamper. And it goes on and on and on in a myriad of different ways. The goal is structure so that a child can participate in society, be interrelational.
Yeah.
Because if you can't have structure, you're not interrelational.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's our job. They have to be self-centered at birth to survive. And then we teach them midas, and we help them develop by teaching them structure. Lu Yitzuya, if it were that a child would just, no problem, Tati, Daddy, I got it. Abba, I got the structure.
Yeah.
No problem. Would you need rules and discipline?
Right.
You would never need it.
Uh-huh.
The concept is structure. Now, how do we convey to a child structure? We give them rules. We say bedtime's at 7. We say if you don't put the clothing on the floor,
Then
you
there's
know,
gonna be
thing, it
a
doesn't.
consequence of discipline, right.
So we convey rules to children because we can't give them philosophy. They're
Right.
little. We're not going to teach them about the philosophical need to be part of a society and interrelational, and you're going to get married. They're 2 years old. How are you going to talk to them about marriage?
Right.
But we know that you have to work. You have to be able to have a boss or employees and colleagues and all the rest of it.
Right, right.
So we're always teaching them structure. We communicate structure by
the-
giving
through
them
the rules
rules.
and the discipline,
The rule,
right.
well, it goes even break it down. The rules is the medium through which we communicate the structure. But all children test rules. Why? Because they don't trust us.
Why?
Because we say 7 o'clock is bedtime, and it is. And then one night you happen to be talking to your Rebbe, or you're talking to your wife about something else, and you forget the whole thing. And 10 past 7, you come running in, say, oh, bedtime, it's 10 past 7. And the kids say, well, 1 minute, I thought it was 7.
Right.
Like, where we? Oh, when it's convenient for you, it's 10 past 7. Got it. So now we know it's not 7.
Right.
So they start testing you on 7, and they pick that up on everything. And they recognize that we're not sitting there yekkers with a stopwatch on all our rules structure, all our structure rather.
Right.
So the rules are not clear to them.
So you're saying parents should be very structured,
Well-
like meaning have to be more.
Well, I'm going to show you how to do it. The goal is the structure. We convey rules in order to teach the children there is such thing as structure. And when they don't keep the rules, we offer appropriate discipline to reinforce the nature of the rules in order to have the structure. The goal is the structure,
Right.
nothing else. So when we do rules and discipline, what's the point of doing that angry? That doesn't
Right.
work anymore.
Doesn't help anything.
It's simply a consequence. Like Schaeffler, here's the rules, and you didn't keep it. Okay.
Right. So, but in the moment, I feel like it's so hard for parents to keep their emotions at bay.
That's
and
right. So go and get a good therapist and work it out. I mean, these are not excuses. These are real. But the more we understand what we're doing, that's what I tried to describe in the book. The more we understand it, the more it makes sense to us. Oh, that's what we're doing. There's not this concept called rule, structure, and discipline that we have to throw at kids. No such thing. There is structure they need so they can be interrelational and they can be cooperative with society. Rules is the way we convey the structure. Discipline is the way we confirm the value of the rules.
Wow.
Once you see that, it
Yeah.
kind of plays out obvious.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
very, very simple,
powerful.
isn't
very,
it?
Very powerful.
So that, right? Okay.
I'm curious, what happens in a way when a child's, I feel like we kind of just spoke about it, but that the child doesn't feel like that core sense of self is in a healthy way that then causes, the child to
Well,
go
what
off.
happens in the from, we're talking about the from world.
From world, yeah.
Okay. So the uniqueness of the from world, and I think to a large degree, it's shared through all aspects of the Orthodox world, is we bring up our children with 2 pillars that we live their lives on. The pillars are limud Torah, learning Torah. We
Yeah.
want them all to learn
Right.
as much as we can. And I would say to some degree or other, depending on your community, there are values to do with hatsnei aleches, to do with tznius, and how you conduct yourself, how you dress, how you behave.
Right.
When children go through a variety of struggles, whether they're learning disabilities or they are so distracted because of family problems and issues that they're dis-abled from learning.
Right.
They're not learning disabled, but they're disabled.
Right.
Which happens to so many kids when they have sorrows on their heads. And you're in a primary environment that's very, very academic.
Yeah.
That pillar tends to crumble. And we don't have readily another pillar for them to stand on.
Right.
Same thing with tznius, when, unfortunately, in the world we're living in, where the values of tznius, I'm not talking about just girls and covering the bodies, even for boys, shmiras enayim, shmiras aguf.
And just the way we carry ourselves.
We carry ourselves and the way we conduct ourselves.
Sure.
And especially in the world of the internet, where we've devastated everything.
It's crazy.
So the challenges towards hatsnei aleches, which is the cornerstone of who we are.
Yeah.
It's tznius and learning. They're sort of, they're who we are. They're not what we do. They're who we are.
Right.
So they undermine very quickly in a child who's struggling with either of these two areas. So kids who have access, too early or were touched inappropriate, access to inappropriate material, or were touched inappropriately and sort of moved into the world of sexuality in a place, pre-marriage, where there's really no healthy outlets and options for that. So they lose the connection to Yadus.
Why? You're saying because that pillar...
Yadus is so... The two pillars of Yadus, of Torah, are learning and hatsnei aleches. These are the... these are the things...
Hatsnei aleches is totally out the window when
it's gone.
Right.
And and the same thing with learning. For those who are either learning they're learning disabled,
right,
and or they're disabled from learning,
right.
Whichever it is, and there's large numbers like that. When they're distracted from, and usually these two areas feed into each other, obviously, because kids who've been inappropriately exposed and all the rest of it, that becomes a disability in terms of learning,
right,
because it cuts too deeply inside them of who they are, so they lose connection to who we are as a nation, because it appears to them that religious values, halacha, law, well, that doesn't fit them anymore.
Right. It's not apropos for them. It's not fitting for them.
Not at all.
Right.
On the contrary, it's actually an interruption. It goes back to a Mishnah. By the way, I don't have real answers for this yet.
Yeah.
Each community I work with, whether it's the Hasidic community, the Yeshivish community, and even sometimes, the modern Orthodox communities too. So it plays out differently, but it seems to me it's the same basic two pillars.
Yeah.
And they affect the kids profoundly in our communities. I would say more, it doesn't matter really. It affects all three communities. And we have to find a way to understand this better and what to do about this. Because this is why I talk so much about, again, attachment. Because if we're going to lose the attachment to our children, where they will no longer feel attached to Yadus, because it appears to be in the way, well, then they're not going to keep it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's a Mishnah in Avos, staggeringly frightening Mishnah in Avos. I think it's Perek Daled Mishnah. No, it's Perek Gimel, I think. Rav Chanina ben Daisa. He says, Kol sheyiras chatosai, kodemes lechachmasai. Everyone who has yiras chet, which other Meforshim explain can be Avos Hashem, a relationship with God.
Right.
They have a relationship with Yad. It could be Avos Hashem, yiras chet. Kol sheyiras chatosai, kodemes lechachmasai. They have that before they learn. Chachmasa miskayemes.
Right.
Then they keep doing it.
Sure.
V'koshe chachmasa kodemes liras chatosai. Ein chachmasa mikas.
Right, because they don't have the foundation.
They don't have. So the Batanura says the amazing thing, shocking. Says the Batanura that if you have yiras chet first, then you go to learn Torah and yeshiva. So that which you're learning is consistent with your core values. And therefore your nana.
It's reinforcing.
And your nana, he says the word nana, you enjoy it.
Right.
But if you don't have developed yiras chet or avos Hashem,
so it's just a negative feeling.
Then it's monas oisoi milaleches achei shiras libo, he says. It stops you going after your heart's desire. Listen to the words.
Wow.
Shocking. Look up the Batanura. He says, V'hu kotzba means he finds it like a thorn in his side.
Yeah.
Mu'usa finds it disgusting.
Right.
Umenicha. That's the best description of off the derech you'll ever hear. Is right in the Rav Matanur.
Yeah. Wow.
Kotzba umu'usa menicha. Now, what's the implication? So I've thought about it a lot, what this means, the implication. It means that the primary job of parents and schools has to be to create Avos Hashem.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have Avos Hashem, we rush them into Chachma,
Sure.
then we're risking Kotzba Musa Menicha,
Right.
which is a disaster. So how do we do Avos Hashem? I'll tell you how Rebbes do it.
Yeah.
Things your Rebbe. I'll tell you exactly how they do it. They do it by being a person who the child wants to be.
Right.
The way you conduct yourself as a human being is so profound in the eyes of the child that you're actually deeply letting him feel the shliach d'Rachmana. You're the yada richta of Hashem.
Right.
The same thing with parents. When we're keeping Torah mitzvahs for homes, the challenge of our times is that we have to show our children that we're thoroughly enjoying keeping mitzvahs. This is the challenge.
Right. It's like people always used to say, like when people used to, right after the Holocaust, when people say, I don't know the Yiddish so well, but schwer is eine Yid, right?
Schwer ist eine Yid,
right.
exactly. This is appalling today.
Yeah.
I think Pesach Krohn had a marvelous story on that with some kid who came home. He said it over. I heard it one time. And the kid was the Shabbos Tati that week.
Yeah.
And he sat down at the table and he said, that's what he said at school. And they called him from the school. It's like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
But that's the way it was. You can't, the job of parents, if we hope that our kids are going to follow our Messiah, we have to convey to them, not through drushes, but through our affect, our behavior. They have to witness and see we are enjoying being from.
Right.
And if they hear criticism about everything and anything, how long Shabbos is, I'm so bored,
right.
Or the cost of food for Pesach. If the kids are witness this, I know we feel this way. These are struggles for people.
Yeah.
But if the kids hear that it's schwer zu sein a Yid in this day and age,
and
so they won't be.
Yeah.
So for a Rebbe and teacher who represent the Yada Richter of Hashem, you have to, in this generation, work out how to convey the discipline and the teaching and everything you're doing in class in a way where they see you, and in Yiddish they call it a derech b'nei Yid, a special person.
Yeah.
They have to see you as a special person. Someone they admire. My mother, Leah Shalom, was a teacher for over 40 years. She was a master teacher. We heard, I had a brother of Shalom who worked in the education department in London, who told us that where we were living, she was ranked number 2 teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty close.
Wow.
So I asked her one time, Mommy, what made you such a good teacher? Like this. She said, every day I walked into the classroom, I tried to present myself as a person that every child will want to be. Once they want to be me, then they want my knowledge.
It's interesting because there's like a whole discussion within education now, Jewish education, of should Rebbeim be very relatable for their students, or should it be, no, I'm a Rebbe.
Neither. They're both wrong.
Yeah, so what do you mean?
It's an integration of both. A person has to be a Rebbe. You have to be a Dahaib and a mensch. You have to be. But at the same time, we have to abandon the idea that we're going to convey discipline with this sort of distant, angry kind of toughness.
Right.
That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite. It has to be relatable. It has to be where I sit down with the kid and say, Shape, I'm so sorry, but look, here's the rules.
Right.
I really feel bad.
Yeah.
But look, here's what happened. And here's the consequence. How can I help you?
Right.
Like we're firm and clear about what happened, but we do it in a way that's,
with the love, with
a love and a caring.
Right.
So if we could get the schools doing that more,
right,
which means you do not compromise on the rules because like I said, structure.
Right. It all goes back to that.
It all goes back to that model.
Sure.
So we do it, but we just convey it with warmth and kindness in this world.
Sure.
Not with otherwise it's kotzbo musa menicha.
Yeah. So what about when a family, let's say, is, they're not complaining, and there's a real love, and the child is not even necessarily having learning challenges per se. Why is it that sometimes children still in those types of situations seem to go off.
So there's too many possibilities to do it, but somehow it's either, from all the kids who are actually going off, it's either they've not got the message of we thoroughly enjoy being from.
Mm-hmm.
That message has not come through. I'm not blaming or judging anyone, but it's just not come through. We're living in remarkably pressured lives. Remarkable.
What do you mean by the pressure in terms of?
Two people, you need two incomes.
Right.
That would never happen. My Rebbe, Matthias Salomon,
Oh, amen.
So the Mashgiach told me once when he was engaged at Koil, the Koil gave Parnasa based on how much money do we have to give you to make sure your wife doesn't have to work.
Wow.
There was a musik, can you imagine?
That's
a concept. You're right, exactly. That's how much, and it wasn't like everyone got the same pay.
Right.
Based on your kids and your situation.
Wow.
We just got to make sure your wife doesn't work so she can take care of the kids.
Wow.
We live in a world that's completely olam hafach.
Yeah, it's exactly
the chance of surviving today without two people working is impossible.
Yeah.
So what happens is we're compromising our children terribly.
Mm-hmm.
We're substituting parenting with babysitters, with nannies, with caregivers, if we got that. If not that, we're compromising. Homework is it's not a pleasant experience for anyone.
Yeah.
And parents are incredibly stressed and pressured. And then you've got simchas nonstop and fundraisers nonstop.
Yeah.
So we're running around nonstop. We don't have I grew up in a home where every night at 6 o'clock on the dot, my father walked in at 5 to 6, sat in his chair in the living room, and then 6 o'clock supper was called, and we had a 3-course supper meal as a family every single night.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. And we discussed life. And after that, in the old days, we had televisions, even in, so we would go and watch the news together and current events. And we would discuss it together as a family.
Yeah.
And then
very
everyone
healthy.
went off and did homework.
Right.
Sure, there's a ton of research, by the way, that one of the best predictors for a family doing drugs for children not doing drugs is the number of nights you have supper together as a family.
Family dinner is a big deal.
Family dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of gone. Everyone's on the run.
Yeah.
Everyone's grabbing and, just grabbing and eating. We've lost that cohesiveness of family being connected. And it's really the family. Raising a Loving Family is the title, but it's really about that we need to, focus on that. What can we do to connect with our children? Because things will happen, and without the resilience, without the attachment, there isn't a lot you can do, and they're going to go off.
Right.
And then we're in the second wave of how can I bring them back?
Right.
What can I do then?
I feel like a big component of this also is our children really feeling that we're proud of them, genuinely. So how do parents convey that in a way that it's, we're proud of you for you, not for my, like you were saying before, that we all have this picture, parents all have this picture of exactly who I want my child to be. Not because of that. I'm proud of you because of you, of who you are and what you've accomplished. Or how does a parent really give that over?
The first step is we, as a parent, have to get over our own ego. The problem is, for so many of us, we view our own sense of success through the eyes of the success of our children. And this is a disaster for most people.
It's very dangerous. Right.
Incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Kids pick it up.
Yeah.
They know everything. They know exactly how you feel. As a matter of fact, it's part of what I try to teach in school systems around the world. Once upon a time, there was a way of telling kids, not in our school you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not in our, you want to be in this school?
Right.
Not in our school.
And now it's...
now the kids say, fine, I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
No problem, I'm gone.
Right.
It's actually that we've shifted the exact opposite, is we want you in our school.
Mm-hmm.
We're struggling with how to make it work. But I want you to be successful. If we're the wrong school, let us know.
Yeah.
But if we're the right school for you, talk to me. Let's see if we can work out.
What can we do to make this work?
How we can help you do this.
Right.
I do this with actually parents and school administration when they have a struggling kid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a frequent mistake. The parents get called in by the administration to be basically told off about their kid.
Right.
It never works well. It's awful.
Why is that going to happen? Why is that going to help?
Then the kid just gets more, of the negativity from the parents who are embarrassed by the school because of their behavior.
Right.
And they try foolish methods like bribing, which always fails, and gifting and rewarding. It just always, it's a disaster. It doesn't work. One of the things I've been telling recently in the last year or so to school administrators who says to us, but what am I meant to do when I call in a parent?
Right.
And I see they're like go with their kids, or they're this, or they're that, whatever it is. So I tell them very simple. You tell the parent when they come in that I want to be very clear. You as a parent have a primary responsibility to care for your child. God gave it to you. And you have to fight us. And I won't be offended. And everything you do to fight us for the interests of your child is exactly what Hashem wants.
That's what you should be doing, right?
What you should be doing. That's your job. And I promise you, I will not be offended. Our job is the entire school. We've got 200 or 300 kids here. That's our primary. It's not that I don't care about every individual kid. Of course we do.
Right.
But that's not my primary job. It can't be.
Right.
My primary job is on behalf of all the parents in the school for 300 kids. So that's not your job. That's my job.
Right.
Let's see if we can work out. Is there a way we can get these two jobs work together?
Right.
Well, I found that when administrators say that to a parent authentically and genuinely, it puts everyone at ease.
Right.
That is my job. Okay, I'm going to fight for my... Yes, you should. You should be fighting for your child. A child should know you're fighting for your child. They should know that. And if this is the wrong school, acknowledge that.
Right.
Not a big deal. So we'll find another school.
Right. It's not a personal thing.
That's not personal
just the reality.
at all.
Right.
It's the reality. Children need to know we're out there being derech for them. Unfortunately, in our super pressured lives, financially pressured, which most people are terribly financially pressured. Again, that's a observation of the times we're living in.
Yeah.
That what can I tell you? I think the levels of gashmias that we have
It's crazy.
accustomed ourselves to is so bizarre. It just is bizarre.
Yeah.
And I just wish there were brave communities who were able to stand up to this and say, as a community, we're going to work on this.
Yeah.
Or go create new communities somewhere. Because this is mad.
Yeah, no, it's really
mad. It's completely mad.
The kiddishes and not even.
The whole thing.
There's so many examples, but it's crazy.
The entire
it's really
structure
crazy.
of our lives, and most people fall into it not because they believe in it. They don't.
Yeah.
But they also believe that they look like losers if they don't do it, and they do it because they're loserish, and they get a fancy car because it's loserish.
Keeping up with the Jones, just they have to.
We have fallen as Klal Yisrael into a terrible mess.
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible. And our kids are watching this, so why would they be interested in Yaz? Look, it's in the world of chinuch. It's hard to get quality mechanchim.
Yeah.
It's hard. And everyone complains. But why are you complaining? Go pay them what you're making to be
Right.
a doctor, and we'll get people better. It doesn't make any sense.
It's true. It's very true.
We have to, as a broad community issue, really take a look at this. But I don't mean an op-ed in a magazine.
Yeah.
There has to be something profound and systemic from the leadership on top. There has to be an approach because this is out of control.
Yeah.
And I think it's what it's done is impacted directly family life by having two utterly exhausted parents who are just desperately trying to make enough money to make ends meet.
So it's a rat race of life. It's crazy.
And they're not there. Like I said, my father came home at 6. We had supper. I tried to bring up my kids. Well, we had family supper most nights of the week.
Yeah.
We sat, and I was available, and we sat there together as a family. This is crucial going forward. We have to really rethink the way we're structuring our lives, our families, and network. Parents have to speak to each other and say, can we form some sort of community club that we don't do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we without being loserish? So, and the goal is not, forget about the gashmis. If you bench with gazillions of dollars, it's not an issue. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Person happens to have it. It doesn't take away from your family. So be it. Right? It's not my problem. The problem is when it impacts your ability to have focus and attention to your own children.
Right.
That's the disaster.
Right. Right.
And I think that's happening too frequently in too many families.
Yeah. 100%.
That's the real disaster.
Yeah. I guess maybe we'll go to, what your findings were on, just very briefly.
The findings
In terms of the results of after your years of experience with.
Well, I think I've said it actually. What the findings really. I think I've made it clear that we have to go back as a community to the grassroots. I really, honestly, but when I finished the book, this my author Zalman Goldstein put it together, and then we edited to get it all clear. When I finished, I almost had a panic attack. I thought, I didn't say anything.
Right.
Years ago when I first started speaking publicly.
Yeah.
So my father, Shalom, lived in Gateshead. So he asked me, send me the tapes. I want to hear what you said.
Yeah.
So I sent it. He was a very straight man, my father.
Yeah.
Very, very straight person. So I sent him the tapes, and I called him a few weeks later. Dad, did you get the tape? He said, yeah, I got the tape. So I already heard in his voice.
Where it's coming.
Yeah. I said, Dad, did you listen? He said, yeah, I listened. I said, well, what do you think? He said to me, Shimon, he said, people pay for this? He said, you didn't say anything. Well, when I finished the book, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
It's like it was common sense. But that's what my father was reflecting on.
Well, it's like what the Messiah Sharm says.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all common sense, but we need to be reminders about it.
I think that in this incredibly technology, world, the world of AI, chat GPT and what's going on in the world, it's so mad what's going on. As parents, we have to go back to the grassroots.
Yeah.
Safe, secure, seen, and soothed. Reconnect with our children.
Got to read about it in the book.
Read about it in the book. Do attachment work. Attachment, create resilience. This is it. Build our marriages in a healthy way. Enjoy Yadus. Enjoy being from.
Yeah.
These are basics. And honestly, I don't think there's any other way in the world that we live in, unless we go back to the grassroots, to the basics, we're going to watch more and more kids spinning off. Because the world out there, you see, the ghetto walls are down. Haskalah that happened in Europe happened when the walls of the ghetto went down.
Right.
And people started having knowledge of the outside world. Well, today, I said in the book YouTube, I didn't mean YouTube, I meant social media, the whole works.
Everything.
But YouTube is the Haskalah of our children's generation.
Yeah.
If they're not feeling nurtured and satisfied and inspired by us and our way of life,
going to go to technology.
then in 2 seconds,
100%.
the world out there, and that's a lot more entertaining and interesting.
Yeah.
So if there were 3 recommendations, 1, start enjoy being from, work out why you're not, and fix that. If you want your kids to be from, you better enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's number 1. Number 2, work on your marriage. Everyone, make sure your marriage, you have real shalom bias and love. Model that for your children. And number 3, work on safe, secure, seen, and soothed with your children. Those 4 S's. Work very diligently. Discuss it, husband and wife. Are we missing something? Are we doing this properly? Those will be the 3 things that I would say we have to do if we're going to have a chance in this next generation.
Oh, man. Wow. Thank you so much. This was incredible. So insightful. And really such an incredible zchus. Thank you. Really.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this special guest episode. This was really just an incredible zchus. As I mentioned in the beginning, a real pleasure to just sit and talk and learn from such an expert in the field, really, Rabbi Shimon Russell. Wow. I mean, this episode, the information just flowed from him. It was insane. It was incredible. He kept asking, can I go on? I said, please keep going. He had a very early flight, a 4:45 in the morning flight to catch. And this episode ended, very late at night. And I so appreciated his time and his patience to just keep explaining ideas with total clarity and with such structure and such a wealth of information on parenting. And such a fitting episode for a special guest episode. And I really gained so much. I loved the idea of the structure and how important structure is for our children. And the only reason we have rules is to enforce the structure. And the only reason we have discipline is to enforce the rules, which is to reinforce the structure. And when you take that approach, you could take the emotion out. Obviously, it's much easier said than done. But the ability to do that is, this reframing of our mindset is huge. It's a really big deal. So that was number 1. And number 2, I love the idea of the 4 S's. We really spoke at length about that. And
I can't say enough about it. Just you got to read the book. You really have to check out his book. He's such an incredible wealth of information, and it's a must read. It's a must read, and I really strongly recommend it for everyone. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'd really love to hear your feedback. Check us out at genoff.org. Visit us there to give us your feedback. You can email us there, or follow us on Instagram. You can message us there. Parenting the Jews Next Door, Twitter at Yair Menshel. Feel free to reach out. And anyway, we'd really love to hear from you. Call our parenting hotline with any questions on parenting or on this episode. And we look forward to hearing from you. And I wish you all an amazing, amazing week.